This is Colin Dixon with nScreen Media, and I'm speaking with Phil Hopkins, who's the founder of The Film Detective. Welcome, Phil.
Hey, Colin, how are you?
I'm doing well. And I'm so excited to talk to you, Phil, because you're doing some great work at The Film Detective. But before we get into what's going on there, why don't you tell us more about The Film Detective? What is that?
So The Film Detective is essentially our film archive. We've been archiving orphan films and independent films for collectors for a decade at this point. We've been monetizing those titles into both the broadcast space as well as the OTT space for well over a decade now. And most recently, we've been pivoting into the new stitched linear world of distribution with companies like Zumo and Pluto TV for channel activation. So we've pretty much gone through the food chain of every iteration of media with old assets.
I can't believe it. Didn't you have a deal with Hulu back 10 years ago where you were providing them with movies?
Yeah, well over 10 years ago now. So Hulu, when they were just starting up, they had a appetite to build their platform, but the studios wouldn't opt into a revenue share. It was an unknown terrain at that point. So we were early adopters to Hulu, Amazon Video on Demand, which became Prime Video eventually, and some other companies like Vudu. And over the past few years, we got in early with Pluto TV and Zumo, and now with Sling, which has a great platform with a stitched linear offering. So we're more like a network that we originate from an OTT environment. So we've kind of reverse engineered that type of technology, which was effectively OTT, and now we're going through your traditional broadcast methods now.
Wow. Yeah, I'm hearing about that more and more, Phil. But I want to know how are things going during all of the COVID-19 lockdowns. What are you seeing about demand for both the channels, the usage of the channels that you're providing, and also from license activity? Is it up, down? What's going on?
Well, OTT has across the board had tremendous increase in viewership because of COVID-19. However, there was a period at the end of March where the ad fills went way down. And that's because most of the major advertisers didn't have the messaging to reflect what was going on with the shutdown. Right. So there was a decrease in the months of March, April. And then by mid-May, we started seeing advertisers reposition their messaging. And I think that we'll see a good increase in the next few months because people kind of reposition how they want to message to people that are at home, working at home, or staying at home.
So yeah, I think that's a theme that we've been hearing about a lot, Phil. You mentioned stitched linear. This is a pretty new opportunity. So if people aren't familiar, if you have a smart TV, I'm sure it's probably got one of these apps in it. If it's Samsung, for example, you have Samsung. There's a Samsung app. There's one on Vizio. There's one on LG. And they're very easy to use. Connect the Wi-Fi, start watching TV, and you'll find Film Detective channel in many of those because of that. So this new linear opportunity is pretty interesting. So you have channels. Talk about how you program those channels.
We program them just the way a network would program them. So because we've been a supplier for many years to broadcasters as well as OTT platforms, we got a lot of good data in terms of what works with consumers in terms of viewership hours. So our editorial process is we go through the calendar. If there's an anniversary, if there's a birthday celebration, or if there's a death, we're able to go from our digital archive, which has all of our assets, to reposition programs. So a good example is we just went through this drive-in movie theme. Movie theaters obviously haven't been able to open for a few months, and the drive-ins have had a resurgence. So in the month of June, we started the Film Detective Drive-In promotion, which we've gone back and pulled out all of our campy movies from the 1950s and 60s, a lot of Roger Corman movies, a lot of monster movies and sci-fi classics. And things like that are a lot easier for us to do because we have all the metadata already, we have the artwork, we have the digital assets already available. So our programming can change pretty much at any time. And if there's a birthday celebration or if there's an actor who might have passed away, we're able to put together a celebration relatively quickly because of that.
Right. And actually that highlights a very interesting point, Phil, and that is that many people out there may have assets sat on their shelf, literally physically sat on their shelf, that they're not monetizing. And this is a new monetization opportunity for them, right?
It's a tremendous opportunity. The appetite for digital media right now is proven to be very high, and there's so many platforms globally that are looking for content, and everyone's taste, can vary. So that's why I think these niche channels are a great opportunity. And a niche channel by itself might not necessarily have a large audience base to sort of have a full marketing campaign to be a standalone. However, sitting within an array of channels that's a stitched linear environment, they can curate these channels as genre specific and benefit from having either an advertising revenue share with these larger platforms to get some lesser known titles into the marketplace.
Very good. And to let's give people an idea of what a restoration project actually looks like. So could you maybe talk about something interesting that you've been working on and tell us a little bit about how that restoration project goes?
So one of the other things that we still do at the Film Detective is we release Blu-rays. Movies that are made from the 1930s and the 1940s, if they never had their original material, it's hard to obtain good elements to get to 4K to make a proper Blu-ray release. Recently, we did a project with UCLA and Sam Sherman, who's a friend and colleague of mine, for a well-known pre-code movie from 1933 called The Sin of Nora Moran. And the film was restored by UCLA. However, the audio track had a lot of damage, and we didn't feel that it was up to standards to release as a Blu-ray the way it was. So even though we had a great picture quality from the original negative, we had very poor audio. And we had to go back to a 16 millimeter print, which fortunately Sam had. And we took the optical track to create a new soundtrack, and then we were able to move them together and sync them up as a brand new restoration that had a clean audio track. So you're really challenged with the restoration projects by how material is available, whether it's in good enough condition to warrant a 4K scan, or if you're missing elements, do you have enough contacts over the world to find collectors or institutions like the Library of Congress or the British Film Institute or UCLA or the Eastman House and all the various archives that might have these elements. So it's a lot of detective work, hence the name.
Yes. So, well, this sounds like a great opportunity for people, even with film stock they may think is not usable. It sounds to me like they should be talking to you, because it may well be restorable and be monetized again and actually be seen again by people. So highly recommend people in that situation reach out maybe to talk to you. I'm sure you can help them out.
We'd love to.
So if you're interested to learn more about the Film Detective, there's a white paper at the nScreen Media website where I talk to Phil in a little bit more detail, and you'll find some more details there. So just come to the nScreen Media website under the white papers and reports section and scroll down and you'll see it right there. And while you're there, why don't you sign up for our newsletter? It's free and comes to you either daily or weekly. Phil, been an absolute delight talking with you. I'm sorry we couldn't dig into some of those more interesting projects, but I'm sure we'll get a chance next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
This has been Colin Dixon with nScreen Media.